Hi everybody, today's video is dedicated towards tips for taking care of your health. Now, I've been leaning in lately to the idea of being proactive about my health. After turning 50, I realized that proactivity is so important, not just waiting until something feels wrong. And it has made all of the difference. That comes to the sponsor of today's video, Norx, a brand I have come to appreciate not just for their convenience, but also for the real support they provide, especially when it comes to mental health. We don't talk about it often, but mental health is health. And Norx can help you access the help you need without the long wait times, confusing processes, and high costs that can get in the way. What I love about Norx is they realize that everyone's experience is different. When you sign up, you get connected with a licensed medical provider who will help you personalize your treatment plan, whether you're dealing with stress, anxiety, or just feeling overwhelmed in the day-to-day. Their care is thoughtful, evidence-based, and discreet. You can access prescription treatments, ongoing check-ins, and unlimited messaging with your Norx provider, all from home. And they accept insurance for most treatments, which is really a game changer. So if you've been thinking about taking the first step to care for your mental health, or just want support that fits your life, Norx is a great place to start. Thank you, Norx, for sponsoring this video. You can get started today by going to norx.com/Janine Delaney. That's NURX.com/Janine Delaney. Because taking care of your mental health is taking care of your whole health. So let's get into more of my tips. The first tip I have seems like common sense, but you would really be surprised at how many people do not do that. And that is to set an appointment with your primary care physician for an annual checkup. That is called being proactive, and it can identify a lot of issues, underlying things that you may not even be aware of. I know many of us feel good, so we don't even think it's necessary, and then we're surprised when something happens with our health. So what I do is I like to find a month of the year, which is just generally a slower month for me, the month of January, let's say after the holidays, and I make sure that every year I have that checkup. Now, I've only been doing this for a few years now, but I will tell you it has definitely paid off. I recently found out that I was low on iron, which was one of the reasons I was starting to get a bit tired. So by being able to supplement my body with the iron, I have had more energy and I feel better. And then you can also learn about other interesting things such as cholesterol, blood pressure, and of course any sort of screenings based on your family and genetic history. So having an annual checkup with a doctor you trust is a wonderful idea to be proactive. So I want everybody to get their calendar out, get out their phone, write a note to yourself, and set that appointment. In line with that, my second tip is to understand your health indicators. Health indicators being things such as blood pressure, cholesterol levels, and other markers which can tell you a lot about what's going on in your body. I know many of you, when you go to a visit and you're not feeling well, they sometimes will take these health indicators, but we don't often stop to think about what they mean and how they fluctuate. So for example, blood pressure is a big one for me. I've always had very good blood pressure. It's been on the lower side, which is pretty genetic. My mom has the same thing. And so I've been very consistent with that, and I've always been told that it was a good thing. Then I went to the doctor a few months ago just because I had a sore throat, and my blood pressure was a little bit high, and I was surprised. So I realized that that might be the cause of certain stress triggers in my life. And I started to learn what those were and help to bring my blood pressure down to my prior levels. The reason I bring this up is I think health indicators are very similar to things like ingredients that we eat in the food or macros, meaning that we know what they are, but we don't really understand their underlying value to our body. So I think that educating ourselves on those health indicators, what ours are, how they relate to how we feel, how we live our life on a day-to-day basis, can really be a smart consumer, a smart person understanding and being an advocate for your own health. So I would read up on it and I would make sure you get the data from your doctor. My third tip is, now that you have all this great information about your health, right? You're going for your annual checkups, you're understanding your health indicators, it's all about documentation. So you want to have a file. I have a little file cabinet in my office, in my desk, and every year, every time I go to the doctor, I just put in the paperwork. I know that can seem a little bit tedious, maybe even a little silly or like too much for some people, but it can be super helpful if you need to track what's going on should something come up. And let's face it, that is why we're being proactive about our health. We're being proactive almost in the anticipation that someday, yes, we may unfortunately have something that we need to deal with. It happens to the best of us, to the healthiest of us, but it's part of life. And if we're proactive and we keep that documentation, it could be useful information, not just for our doctors, but also for us to be able to track our patterns. I know that documentation and keeping lists is huge when people are trying to lose weight. It's also huge in the weightlifting community when you're trying to increase your lifting goals. So when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense that you would also want to do that with your health data. My fourth tip is very simple. Well, simple in theory, not so much in reality. And it's making sure that your lifestyle supports your health goals. So a lot of us talk about, we want to be healthy, we want to feel great, we want to have energy, but our lifestyle does not match up to our words. What do they say? Actions speak louder than words. So if you're voicing those opinions and that is really what you're manifesting, you need to make sure that your lifestyle mirrors that. So think about it. How do you want to feel? What are you doing in your life that is negating what your health goals are? I know it's not easy to live a perfect lifestyle, to sleep 10 hours, to eat perfectly. The word perfect is definitely not something we aspire to be. What we aspire to be is balanced and consistent. So I often get asked, how do you do it? How do you keep your weight? You're almost 56, you don't fluctuate. You're always going to the gym, you're leading a very healthy lifestyle. And honestly, my secret sauce, I don't have a secret sauce. It's just pure consistency. I fall off the wagon and I get back on. But I know that my goal is to lead a healthy lifestyle. I also know what that should look like, and I'm sure many of you do as well. You know a lot more than you think you know. So give yourself credit for that. Go with your gut on what you know is going to make you feel good. And don't fall into the hype. We look at social media and we think that we have to follow a given path. There is no one path. We are all unique. So the most important thing is you identify how you want to live, how you want to feel, and then what you will be able to do to accomplish that. I hope that makes sense. My last and final tip you have heard over and over and over again, but I would be remiss not to mention that in the video. It is getting adequate sleep. I know we think sleep is all about how we feel the next day. And of course, that is what we notice immediately. But there are some very bad long-term effects of not having adequate sleep. Not having adequate sleep does all sorts of things to our hormones. It will increase our cortisol levels, which means we tend to gain weight. It will increase our mental fogginess, which is never good for anyone, our mood, our temperament, and even studies have shown over the long term, not getting enough sleep can trigger certain diseases. So that said, I won't say any more. Get your sleep. Remember, sleeping from 1 a.m. to 11 a.m. is not the same quality of sleep for the same number of hours if you were to go to bed earlier. We really benefit from sleep, early to bed, early to rise. Again, everyone's different. Everybody has a different work schedule. Family life. Do what fits in your schedule, but be aware of it. I hope that you really enjoyed this video. Again, I'm taking a super proactive stance at the age of 55 to not just my physical health, but my mental health. I realize that both of those components comprise me as a person and how I feel physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and I want to start feeling my best. So I hope I've encouraged you. I hope I've also taught you a few things. If you have any tips, please feel free to share them in the comments. I always love to hear what you guys have to say. And please, I encourage you, if there's anyone out there that you know would love this information or even just needs to hear it, share the video. I would love to bring them over to my channel so we can all continue to share and learn together as a community. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you all soon.